Hi everyone, this is Formaltality, also known as Dina or Austin from Dianamains. Today we're going to take a look at Season 12's itemization and rune changes to see what's changed and which builds are best. Let's go ahead and start with your viable mythic options. Some of these may seem like spicy takes, and we'll get into why I've chosen pretty much all the AP items in just a second. But yeah, we have everything here: Protobelt, Crown of the Shattered Queen, Everfrost, Ludens, Riftmaker, Legendaries, Night Harvester, pretty much every AP mythic is in here, and that's definitely a lot of options. Some are going to be better than others, and there's a few that are super situational, so let's dive into this a little further and see which mythics are the best option. So, quick side note, I do want to add why Diana has a lot of options. Diana likes damage, simply put. All of these give her some source of pure damage, and she makes good use of a lot of these things situationally. So let's look at the pen options first. The most popular and common mythic option is Protobelt, and that's not going to change with preseason. If you're looking for a one-size-fits-all, this is your go-to mythic item. Generally speaking, you can't go wrong with this option, as it provides pen, an extra dash, HP, and insurance through scaling on pen per mythic. Ludens is another pen item as well that you can choose from, so why Ludens exactly? Well, Diana's passive procs Ludens cooldown reduction, and all of her spells aside from her dash are also AoE, so this leads to multiple procs in a single team fight. This is especially good in low elo where everyone clumps in Diana's ult, Q, passive, W, etc., and allows for multiple procs of that item, and it's a lot of extra damage that goes off in the fight. So it's similar to why it's good on Katarina, who doesn't even use mana, but it's slightly less effective on Diana. Now, build paths for your pen options are generally going to be the same. So you're going to have your mythic item, your boots, and then Magi's if you want a cheap mythic passive. You also have Hourglass as well for a cheap option. Shadow Flame is a new item that you will build quite a bit as well. So you can choose Magi, Hourglass, and Shadow Flame. Pick two of them in any order. Then go Death Cap or Void Staff, depending on if they're stacking MR or if you just need additional damage. So why this build for Assassin one-shot? It's mainly because of the pen that you get out of it and the abundance of AP and the safety that you get through Hourglass to engage. Before, also as a side note, Horizon Focus was also a viable option into this build and into very squishy comps, and unfortunately it's not as good due to the reduced AP now. It's been turned into more of a battle mage item or a very specific poke mage item. Alternator as a general rush item has also been nerfed too because of this change, so that's just another call out I wanted to add as well. Alternator is not necessarily as good to hold on to as maybe a build component as an extra source of damage, as that was pretty common before. You would just hold Alternator and then build a bunch of damage and try and burst everyone with your items and pen. So there's other situational items that you can consider in this build, and we'll have more on those later, mainly Nashors and Lich Bane. Fighter Diana focuses on Conqueror and abusing the healing which comes from items and runes, and she doesn't have any innate healing in her kit either. She only has shielding, sticking power, and an attack speed steroid to rely on for her fighter attributes. So personally, I feel something's missing to make Fighter Diana 100% the best option, but it doesn't really make it bad. Her fighter build still performs well into a lot of different matchups, and many different team comps too. And you'll see that I've thrown a few other items in here like Spirit Visage, but it is quite situational, but against magic damage mid plus jungle, it's actually pretty good as it bolsters your own healing and shielding, plus any that you receive from your allies. This is fantastic if you have a support like Soraka, Lulu, Nami, or Janna, and I'd highly recommend it situationally with this build. I've also thrown in Frozen Heart as a tank item in this build, or as a tanky option that you can build into, because Diana uses it pretty well. The mana's nice, the armor's useful, and ever since her armor per level got nerfed, she definitely could use all the help she could get from some extra armor, and the attack speed reduction makes quick work of pesky bruisers like Aurelia who rely on attack speed. Now we have Phase Rush, and Phase Rush is essentially the same build as Assassin, but I've added Cosmic Drive in here. This item basically is giving you free absolute focus and a watered down Phase Rush by staying in combat. And Diana absolutely likes this item. It's great into comps where you have to weave in and out of combat, so think maybe you've got a Lux, a Xerath, or someone similar who's firing spells off in the backline. That's when that's going to work out best for you. Tank Diana, not something I have 100% experience with, but I do know it can be pretty good into certain comps. I know this is typically ran with Grasp as well, so you're looking to have a lot of HP, and building out something like this right here. Now, some situational items might require certain team comps to be beneficial, and I've listed them right here. It's important to note regarding Night Harvester that it's outdamaged by Protobelt, and it's more of an early stomp item. The passive does proc easily on everyone though, and the move speed is nice if you're playing more to poke or to look for certain opening in team fights. However, with Protobelt giving you the movement speed as you approach a target, Protobelt's generally going to be the better option to help you find those flank angles, etc. And some of these other situational items here, just to run through them real quick, Lich Bane is pretty good as it gives you additional movement speed, and it's best if you know you're going to be able to one-shot your target. You know this by really getting into playing the game more, and once you have a feeling how much the item's going to do. Nashor's Tooth is the safer option because this outdamages Lich Bane within 3 auto attacks. So this all comes down to a playstyle preference. If you're looking to one-shot without any other interaction or fighting afterwards, go for Lich Bane. If you're looking to stay around and fight a little bit, go Nashor's Tooth. Nashor's will definitely outdamage Lich Bane in the long run. I have a video that I put out last year that maps out the mathematics a little bit further. And as far as these other items go, Demonic Embrace is good into tankier team comps as well. I will say the 2% bonus health as ability power, it doesn't add up to a lot in game, even when you stack HP, like intentionally. So even if you're going like Thimblewinter and other items that just are loaded with HP, you're not going to get a ton out of the Demonic Embrace in terms of ability power. You're mainly building it for the burn damage into tankier team comps. Banshees, it's easily popped, same as Crown of the Shattered Queen, which I'll get into here in just a second. It's not necessarily bad if you're against something like Lux, Xerath, or anything that's fishing for a specific ability to hit you with, then this item is of course good because you're not going to get hit by that key ability as long as you stand back or look for certain flank angles, but it still stands that this is popped by like a stray Ludens proc, so it's generally not going to be the better of the two options. Now, as far as the other mythics go here, there's some okay or situational items. Crown of the Shattered Queen, this item is really easily procced. It falls under the same issue that Banshees has. Yes, you can get into the fight, and you can certainly soak up a lot of damage because 75% damage reduction is crazy, but the chances of you getting into a fight without finding a good flank angle are going to be pretty slim. This is going to get popped really early on, most likely. It does only have a 40-second cooldown, so that's not terrible. You're also not going to keep the safeguarded buff up as well, so the 10 to 40 ability power is pretty much going to be meaningless or won't do anything for you. It's nice to have, but I feel this item's better on champions like Lux, Xerath, etc. It doesn't really feel like a good item to build unless you're not going to be hit by a stray thing through finding flank angles, but those aren't always guaranteed. And even if you're looking for flank angles, Protobelt helps you close the gap and get into the fight easier, and you can just push Hourglass anyway. So this item doesn't really win my vote for being a good mythic option for Diana, but I can see why, there's definitely a little bit of hype behind it. Everfrost is also an option that you may want to consider too into certain situations. So if they have champs with dashes, blinks, etc., you can lock them inside of your ult with a dash ult Everfrost combo, and it'll guarantee that they take the damage, so definitely consider Everfrost if you're looking to lock them up into your ult. And lastly, we have Archangels, which is a really odd item. It's not really good on Diana. I think this is only good on Rise at the moment, The heal that it gives is really negligible, and although CDR is definitely nice, she doesn't necessarily need the additional haste. She's just looking to kill you within one rotation anyway, so this item isn't super good on her. Even if you're playing Fighter Diana's gonna generally want like attack speed, HP, things that will keep her surviving longer, and Archangels doesn't really do any of that. It might give her CDR for sticking power, but even when I've tested building like mana mythics plus Archangels together, even if you go every CDR item in the game, it doesn't feel like it's enough of an investment late game to be worth it when you could have other items that bolster your defense. And that's it in terms of itemization changes for this season. So again, pretty much everything stays the same with Burst Diana. To recap, you're going to go Proto Belt, Hourglass Deathcap, Void Staff, throw Shadow Flame in there somewhere for the additional pen. Fighter Diana, pretty much the same. You're going Nashor's Tooth Riftmaker. Again, throwing in the new items somewhere in there potentially. And if you find more success going, with Bruiser options instead, you could go Spirit Visage, Frozen Heart, Hourglass Deathcap, any of these items here to give you some additional damage or protection. And for Phase Rush, pretty much the same as Assassin build, just add the Cosmic Drive and choose to remove Void Staff or Deathcap for one of your items. Tank Diana, pretty much gonna not comment on that because I don't have enough knowledge to really say what's best for her. I will say I think this is best though, in my opinion, because she needs some source of damage. Legendaries Nashors, she procs it on her passive, she can go full tank from there. And then we of course talked about the situational items and situational mythics and why I think Crown of the Shattered Queen isn't necessarily her best mythic at the moment, even though there's a lot of conversations around it. It doesn't seem to be the best for every situation, but there's still an argument to be had that it's okay. Right, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And thanks again for stopping by. Happy preseason.